Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too.
I was 21 when everything went sideways. That strange age where you're technically an adult, but your life still feels like a messy draft you haven't figured out how to edit yet. I just left my mom's place after months of arguing with her new husband, some wannabe life coach named Rick, who kept telling me I lacked discipline. Bro couldn't even hold a job for more than 2 months, but sure, I was the problem. I didn't have money for my own apartment, didn't have a car, and I sure as hell didn't want to move in with my cousin again after she let her 3 chihuahuas sleep on my laundry basket like it was their Airbnb. So when my friend Jalen Rowe got himself tossed in county jail and needed someone to house sit, it felt like the universe finally cut me a break. He had an old mutt named Copper, half lab, half I have no clue, and a green parrot named Salsa, who cursed more than most people I knew. "Just feed him, man," Jalen begged during the phone call. "Copper can't be alone, and the bird, he'll scream till the walls crack." I didn't think twice. Free place, no rent, some space. I was in. What I didn't know, what he conveniently forgot to mention, was what kind of place he actually lived in. Jalen's house sat at the end of a cracked road outside Brookside, Arkansas, where streetlights flickered like they were hanging on to life by dental floss. His neighbors were the kind of people who smoked cigarettes on their porches at 3 a.m. and stared at passing cars like each one owed them money. The house itself looked fine from the outside, old but standing straight. But the inside, it was like walking into someone's abandoned project. No electricity, no running hot water. And the hallway lights? Yeah, those bulbs had probably died before Instagram was invented. But I was desperate, and Copper was old, really old. He'd hobble toward me with that slow tail wag that made my heart kinda ache. Salsa the parrot, on the other hand, greeted me with, "Feed me, bitch." I swear he even glared at me. Despite the rough conditions, I felt okay. The bedroom I used had a double deadbolt on the inside. The lock clicked so heavy it felt like the safest sound I'd ever heard. But on the 3rd morning, I saw it. The first sign something was seriously wrong. Footprints in the dirt outside the living room window. Fresh, deep, too close. That wasn't even the worst part. I found the phone line cleanly cut near the base of the porch. Not chewed, not frayed, cut, like with scissors. I snapped a picture and texted Jalen through my cheap prepaid phone. Me. "Bro, someone's been by the house." Jalen. "Yeah, my landlord lives close. He's weird but harmless. Just ignore him." Harmless, right. I didn't know yet, but that was the biggest lie he ever told me. 3 days later, he showed up. I heard Salsa muttering, "Oh hell no, oh hell no," like he sensed something before I did. Then there was a knock. 3 slow, heavy bangs. I opened the door a couple inches, keeping the chain latched. Standing there was a man who looked like someone tried to assemble him from mismatched parts. Harlan Pickett, as he introduced himself. Late 60s, yellowish beard. 2 teeth missing on one side. Grease-stained jeans. He smiled and said, "You must be the girl Jalen's got watching the place." "Yeah," I replied quietly. "Just for a bit." He leaned closer, eyes scanning me like he was trying to read a label on the back of a bottle. "You're prettier than he said." My stomach flipped. Before I could shut the door, he slid his foot inside the frame. "Rent's late again," he muttered, "and I ain't running a charity." I swallowed. Jalen said he'd be back soon. He's with family. His brow twitched, just a tiny flicker, but I caught it. He knew I was lying. He smirked. Is that right?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "I don't really know his schedule." He stared at me too long. Then he stepped back, slow and deliberate. "Call me if you need anything," he said. I shut the door before he could say more. Copper whimpered at my feet. Salsa squawked, "Creepy ass, creepy ass." And honestly, the damn bird was right. After that day, I saw him constantly. Not like normal landlord visits. No, more like he was checking the place, and also checking me. He'd drive past slowly at night. He'd walk through the yard like it was his personal shortcut. He'd knock and ask the same questions over and over, and his comments got nastier. One time he grinned and said, "You ever wear swimsuits? Bet you look real cute in something small." Another time, while staring at my chest, he muttered, "My wife ain't much fun no more. Thought maybe you could brighten the place up." I felt sick, but I couldn't leave. I had nowhere else to go, and Copper needed me. So I kept locking myself in the bedroom at night, clutching a flashlight like it was a weapon. But the worst day came a week later, when he just walked in. It was 1:12 p.m. I remember because my phone had just beeped low battery. Copper barked once, sharp, confused. Then I heard the front door creak, not knock, creak. I stepped into the hallway and shouted, "Hello?" A voice answered back, "Just checking in." My skin crawled. I saw him standing in the living room, holding a plastic bag like he'd just come home from Walmart. "You can't just walk in here," I snapped. He shrugged, completely unbothered. "Landlords can. Place is mine." "No, they can't," I said firmly. "Not like this. You have to give notice." He smirked, showing that awful gap in his teeth. "You're a tiny thing. What are you gonna do? Call the cops? Tell them what? I opened a door?" My hands shook, but I stood my ground. "You need to leave." He stared at me for way too long. Then finally he walked out, slow, eyes locked on me till the door clicked. I bolted it, dead-bolted it twice, and I slid a chair under the knob. That night I barely slept, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what came next. I woke up at 7:03 a.m. to get water. Sunlight was coming through the bedroom curtains. It felt safe, safer than nighttime anyway. I left the room unlocked because I figured daylight meant nothing creepy would happen. Stupid, so incredibly stupid. I came back, crawled into bed, and drifted off. Maybe 20 minutes passed. Then, click, 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 a small metallic tapping sound. I opened my eyes a little, didn't see anything, closed them again. Another sound, then a feeling, a shift in the air, a presence. I opened my eyes all the way, and he was there, Harlan, the landlord, standing over me, leaning down, his face inches from mine, mouth breathing like a hog, smiling. His eyes were wide, pupils tiny, like he was excited. My blood froze, my breath got stuck in my throat. He whispered, "You sleep real soft, like a baby." I bolted upright, heart exploding in my chest. I grabbed the sheet like a shield and screamed, "Get out, get the hell out of here." He stumbled back, shocked I'd woken so fast, then nearly tripped over Copper, who growled with this deep, old man anger I'd never heard before. I shot out of bed. "What is wrong with you?" I shouted. "You can't do this. You can't be in here." He backed toward the door, hands up, mumbling, "You weren't locking it. Figured you were up. Get out or I call the cops." This time he ran. I slammed the door behind him so hard the walls shook and locked every damn bolt the house had. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely dial, but I did. The cops showed up, and like every nightmare story you hear from girls like me, they shrugged. "He didn't touch you," one officer said. And technically, since he owns the property, I wanted to scream, cry, break something. But all I could do was stare at the floor while Copper pressed his head against my leg like he was trying to say, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They left. And I knew then I couldn't stay another night. I packed everything, grabbed Copper's leash, whispered bye to Salsa, who yelled, "Run, dummy," like he understood everything. I left the house before Harlan came back. I never saw him again, but to this day, I still hear it sometimes. That soft click, 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 and the sound of a stranger's breath hovering right over me while I slept. I've always believed that every big decision in life starts with something small, some tiny push that nudges you into a direction you'll never forget. For me, that push came the year I left Phoenix for college in Oregon, a place I'd never even visited before. I was 19, broke, and honestly just desperate to get away from the heat, my parents' constant arguing, and the feeling that my life was stuck on repeat. My real name? Jalen Truitt. Most people just called me Jay, but I'd always hated that nickname. Felt too soft, but that didn't stop folks from using it anyway. I took a bus all the way up to Portland, dragging 2 duffel bags and way too much hope with me. Portland Community College wasn't exactly some Ivy League dream, but it was far enough from home that I could breathe. My plan was simple: find a cheap room, work part-time, go to class, don't end up homeless. You know, standard broke college kid survival mode. For the first week I crashed in a nasty little roadside motel off 82nd, between the smell of cigarettes and the walls so thin I could hear every couple fighting, crying, and doing other things. I knew I had to get out fast. That's when I found the listing. Room for rent, $260 per month, utilities included. The price alone made my stomach flip. Nothing was that cheap unless something was wrong. But when you're 19 and have $412 to your name, your standards lower real fast. The address was in Rockwood, which people in Portland talked about like it was cursed. Don't walk alone at night. Don't look people in the eye. Keep your car locked even when you're driving. But $260 a month? I couldn't afford to be scared. I called the number. A gravelly voice answered. Yeah. Hi, I'm calling about the room for rent. Silence. Then, you work? No drugs? No drama? Yeah, I work. Well, I will. I'm starting school here. I don't do drugs, and I'm pretty quiet. A long exhale on the other end, like he was smoking. Come by in an hour. Don't be late. He hung up before I even said okay. I stared at my phone like, well, that's a good sign. The building looked like it should have been condemned 10 years ago. Peel and paint, cracked windows, stairs that wobbled when I walked on them. But the view from the street gave a perfect shot of downtown in the distance, and for a moment, I felt that stupid teenager optimism. The landlord answered his door before I even knocked. He was tall, maybe mid-50s, bald except for a ring of patchy gray hair, eyes sharp and weirdly wet, like he blinked too much. His name was Mr. Corbett. You Jalen? He asked, scanning me up and down like I was a stray dog. Yeah, you look younger than 19. I get that a lot. He stepped aside to let me in. His apartment smelled like something sour mixed with old cologne, the kind of smell that sticks to your clothes. He had boxes stacked everywhere, a dusty record player, and a TV that looked like it came from the 90s. Without even smiling, he said, "Rent's due the first of the month. No guests, no loud music, no touching my tools. Bathrooms at the end of the hall. Your room's the last one on the right. Lock works if you jiggle it." Okay. You break anything, you fix it. You see anything weird, you ignore it. I blinked. What? He stared at me, face stone flat. You heard me. I forced a laugh. Right, sure. You want it or not? He asked. I should have said no. My gut told me to run, but instead, I nodded. Yeah, I'll take it. He smirked, showing teeth way too yellow. Knew you would. Kids your age don't mind a few quirks. Quirks. But he didn't answer. He just handed me the key and shut the door behind me. My room was tiny. A twin bed, a flimsy desk, a single window facing the alley, and walls so thin I could probably hear someone breathe next door. I unpacked, lay back on the creaky mattress, and tried convincing myself this was fine. It was around midnight when I heard it. A sound so strange, it made my skin crawl. A high-pitched screech, not like a person screaming, more like metal scraping against metal, followed by music, opera music, loud, old, like something from a gramophone. It was coming from Mr. Corbett's unit. I sat up in bed, heart thumping. Okay, I whispered to myself. Dude's just into weird music, whatever. But something felt wrong about it, like the sound wasn't supposed to be heard by anyone else. I put my pillow over my head and eventually fell asleep. When I woke up, I noticed something odd. The chair near my desk was 2 feet closer to my bed. I stared at it for a solid minute. Did I move that? Did I bump into it last night? I shook it off. I was tired. Maybe I moved it without thinking. But then I went to the bathroom, and the toilet seat was up. I never leave it that way. When I came back, my bedroom door, which I distinctly remembered locking, was slightly open. I froze. I looked around. My stuff was still there. Nothing missing, nothing broken, but someone had been inside my room. I told myself, maybe the lock just sucks. Maybe I didn't close it all the way. Denial is a powerful thing. The little things kept happening. My backpack moved from the chair to the floor. My window cracked open an inch even though I never touched it. Leftover pizza missing from the fridge. A shadow under my door at weird hours of the night. One time, around 1:30 a.m., I heard whispering outside my room. A man's voice, low, mumbled. I pressed my ear to the door and heard, "No, not tonight. He's awake. Leave it." I stepped back so fast I tripped over my shoes. I didn't sleep that night. One night after class, I locked my door, actually triple-checked it, then slid a small piece of tape across the frame so I'd know if it opened. I stayed up in bed with my laptop light off, pretending to sleep. Around 2:17 a.m., I heard it, the door handle turning, slow, deliberate. I felt the blood drain from my face. The lock clicked, the tape tore, and the door cracked open. A hand slipped in first, thin, pale fingers. Then a face, Mr. Corbett. He tiptoed inside like he'd done it 100 times. He went straight to my mini fridge, opened it, and took out 2 eggs, like he'd done this forever. Then he walked toward my bathroom area, disappearing into the little alcove. I heard the sink running for a moment. He walked out, calm, silent, and left the room again, leaving the door unlocked behind him. My chest felt like it was collapsing. I didn't move until I heard his footsteps fade. My mind spun. Why is he going into my room? Is he watching me, taking pictures, doing something worse? I should have called the cops. I should have run out the door. But fear does something strange. It makes you freeze. And I froze. By Saturday, I couldn't take it anymore. I planned to confront him, but when I walked into the hallway, I heard his opera music blasting again. High-pitched, screeching, wrong. That's when I noticed something. His door wasn't fully latched. He had gone out earlier with a grocery bag. He never closed it right. My heart raced. My palms were sweating, but something inside me snapped. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first, damp, sour, like clothes left wet for weeks. His apartment was worse than mine. Boxes everywhere, stacks of newspapers, a mattress on the floor, and a shelf full of old cameras. Dozens of them. My breath caught. On his desk was a Kodak camera. Next to it, a pile of printed photos. I picked them up. My hands started shaking. They were pictures of me, sleeping, lying on my side, lying on my back, mouth slightly open, blanket half off. Different nights, different angles. Some were so close I could see the pores on my face. The last picture, printed bigger than the rest, was of me lying in bed 2 nights ago, and his hand was resting lightly on my blanket. I gagged. I shoved the photos into my backpack and ran. I burst into the nearest precinct and slammed the photos on the counter. The officer at the desk looked through them slowly, expression hardening. "Where'd you get these?" "My landlord. He's been going into my room at night. I caught him. He watches me sleep, man." "Sit tight," he said. "We're sending a car." Within 20 minutes, 2 officers escorted me back to the building. But when we got there, Mr. Corbett was gone. His door was wide open. All his things, the cameras, the mattress, the boxes, gone, like he had packed up his whole life in minutes. The officers searched the building, but found nothing except the lingering smell of whatever old cologne he used. One of the cops shook his head and said, "Guys like him don't just stop. If he scared you, he's scared others. You did the right thing." But they never found him. I moved out that same night, didn't even go back for my clothes. Every now and then, I still think about him. When I'm half asleep and hear a noise, when a door creaks, when someone brushes past me on the sidewalk, I wonder if he found someone else to rent to, someone else who was young, broke, desperate, someone who wouldn't notice the chair moving 2 inches, the food missing, the door cracking open at night, someone who wouldn't realize what was happening until it was too late. I wish I'd never answered that listing. I didn't think much about danger back then. I had just finished university and moved back home to Ohio, stacking my degree certificate on a dresser already cluttered with childhood junk. My mom taped it to the fridge like it was a report card from middle school. I guess she was proud. I guess I was just confused about what to do next. I had gotten a job at a logistics company 2 towns over. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady. "Steady is good," my mom kept telling me. "Steady keeps you from falling apart." But staying with her, that was temporary. I needed my own space. I wanted to be an adult, or at least someone who didn't have to hear Aiden dinner every night like I was still 12. So I started browsing rental listings every night on my phone until my eyes burned. Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, yeah, even though everyone online says you'll get kidnapped on Craigslist. Then one night, past 11 p.m., when the house was quiet and the fridge hummed louder than usual, I found a listing on a site called Room Share Hub. The photo caught my eye instantly. A simple room, neutral colors, clean, affordable. Too affordable, honestly, especially for the town I'd be working in. I opened it anyway. Room for rent in quiet neighborhood, private landlord, utilities included. Ideal for young working professional. Contact Hollis. Hollis. Never heard that name before. Sounded like a librarian or some guy who collects rare stamps and smells like old paper. But I clicked message. I kept it short. "Hi, I'm Aiden. Saw your listing. Is the room still available?" He replied in less than 5 minutes. "Yes, it is. Are you free for a call? I prefer to speak before I schedule viewings." Something about that made me hesitate, but I ignored my instincts the same way every 20-something who thinks he's invincible does. Sure, he sent his number. I stepped out to the porch so my mom wouldn't eavesdrop. The night was warm, the air thick with that sticky Ohio humidity. I called. "Hello?" The voice was warm, almost too warm. Smooth, like a radio host. "Is this Aiden?" "Yeah, hey." I tried sounding casual. We talked, and the weird thing was, he sounded my age, not just young. He laughed at the same dumb movies I liked. He'd been a swimmer in high school, just like me. He said he worked from home doing IT contract work, so he'd mostly keep to himself. "You seem chill," he said at one point, like he'd known me forever. "It'd be good having someone around who's not messy or loud." I laughed. "Trust me, you won't even know I'm there half the time." "Good," he said. "I like that." We talked for nearly 40 minutes. When we hung up, I felt like I'd just talked to some dude I'd met in college. Not a 50-year-old creep, not someone dangerous, just a guy, if only. He texted immediately after, "Come by Thursday at 6, I'll show you the place." I said yes. Thursday came in that slow way where every hour feels like it's waiting for the next. I got off work at 4, drove home, changed into something that didn't smell like warehouse dust. and headed to the address he sent. It was farther out than I expected, not rural, but definitely out past where the sidewalks end. The houses there were older, wide porches, long yards, lots of trees that creaked in the wind. His house was pale blue, with peeling paint on the trim. Not terrible, not great, but what freaked me out wasn't the house. It was the man who stepped out from the house next door. He waved at me. "Hey, Aiden." I froze halfway out of my car door. That wasn't a guy my age, wasn't even close. He was at least 50, maybe older. Conservative button-down, khakis, shoes that looked like they belonged in a church. And yes, his hair looked like it was glued on. But the voice, it was the same voice from the phone. "Traffic rough?" he asked, smiling too wide as he walked toward me. I swallowed. You're Hollis?" He nodded. "That's me." Immediately, something in my stomach dropped, like I'd missed the last step on the stairs. He was nothing like the person I'd talked to. Nothing. But I forced a smile. "Oh, okay. Cool. Come in," he said, motioning toward the pale blue house. "You'll like the place. Quiet. Safe." Safe. Funny word coming from a guy who already felt off. The moment I stepped inside, I felt like I'd walked into a time capsule. The wallpaper had patterns my grandma would have ripped down. The couch was this old floral thing that sank too far when I sat. And the air smelled faintly like lemon cleaner. And something else. Something stale. "Sorry about the decor." He laughed nervously. "Haven't had time to update." No kidding. He led me to the room. The contrast stunned me. The room looked like it belonged to someone in their 20s. Modern desk, LED strip lights around the ceiling, clean white bedding. I blinked. "This is nice." "Oh yeah," he said casually. "Rowan kept it tidy." I turned. "Rowan?" "The previous tenant. He moved to Philadelphia for work." I nodded. "Got it." But something felt off. The room didn't look left. It looked lived in, like someone had just stepped out to get lunch. "Do you know when he moved out?" I asked. "A couple weeks ago," Hollis said without hesitation. "Still got some of his stuff in the closet. He said he'll pick it up." He smiled like that was the most normal thing in the world. "Sit down for a minute," he said after the tour. "I want to talk." I didn't want to. Every part of me wanted to leave. But I didn't want to be rude or seem suspicious. The couch sank again as I sat. He sat too close. "Look," he began, voice softer. "I'm picky about who I live with. I've had tenants who were nightmares, but you seem different." "Oh?" I forced a laugh. Thanks." He stared at me, not blinking. It was the kind of stare that feels like fingers on your skin. "You've got a good look," he said quietly. "Confident, clean, cool." My throat tightened. He reached out and placed his hand on my knee. Everything in my body screamed, "No." I shifted away immediately. Yeah, I actually need to see a few more places today, but I appreciate the tour." "Oh," his smile flickered. "Sure, of course." I stood, fast. "Thanks again," I said, heading for the door. "Text me when you decide," he called after me. I nodded even though I wasn't looking at him. I didn't breathe until I was locked inside my car. Then I dialed my mom. She answered on the second ring. "How'd it go?" "I'm not living there," I said immediately. "Mom, that guy he was weird, like weird. What happened?" "He lied about his age, he lied about everything, and he touched me." My throat tightened. I gotta find somewhere else." My mom didn't hesitate. "Good. Don't go back there." I didn't plan to. Days later, he texted, "Have you thought about the room?" I lied. "Found a place closer to work. Thanks, though." He didn't reply. I moved into a share house with other young professionals 3 weeks later. It felt normal. Messy kitchen, loud AC, roommates who borrowed your milk without asking. Heaven, honestly. I didn't think about Hollis again. Not for a while. 4 months later, our town woke up to tragedy. The body of a young man was found in the fields outside the old industrial park. A jogger found him early morning. The police blocked off roads. Helicopters hovered. People in my office whispered about it all day. Was he local? Do they know who it is? God, that's awful. Later that week, they released the name, Rowan Pierce. The name hit me like a punch. Rowan, the previous tenant, the one who was moving to Philadelphia. But it got worse. The suspect was announced the next day. Landlord, Hollis Granger. I remember staring at the screen of my phone at work, my lunch turning to lead in my stomach. My coworker Jay leaned over. Dude, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I swallowed hard. I know that guy. What? Which one? The landlord, I whispered. I toured that house. He tried to rent to me. Jay's eyebrows shot up. Bro, what the hell? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. That night I went home and turned on the local news, and when the camera cut to footage of Hollis being escorted into the courthouse, his wrinkled face tight with anger, I felt something cold run through me. His voice, his hand on my knee, his too young tone on the phone, his perfect room with someone else's life still inside it. He had wanted another Rowan. He had wanted me. The details that came out in court were worse than anything I could have imagined. Rowan hadn't moved to Philadelphia. He never even packed. Neighbors testified they heard yelling the night he left. Police found some of Rowan's clothes hidden in Hollis's basement. A journal, toothbrush, a pair of shoes still near the doorway. They found DNA. They found traces of blood under ripped-up carpet. Hollis tried to blame Rowan, said he'd attacked him, said he panicked. But the evidence made him look like a monster. I sat on my couch every night watching the updates, sometimes feeling guilty, sometimes lucky, sometimes nauseated. I kept thinking, that could have been me. I was almost the next name on the news. 6 months later, Hollis was convicted of murder. I watched it unfold on my phone at my kitchen table, while my roommate microwaved burritos behind me, unaware of how close I'd come to being a headline. When the judge read the sentence, I felt something inside me loosen, like a knot finally unwinding. But even now, sometimes when I drive past older houses on quiet streets, especially at dusk, when the sky turns that purple-gray color, I think of his smile, his voice that sounded his hand reaching for my knee, and I still wonder how many other Rowans he tried to find before me, or after. I hope none. I hope I was the last near miss, because I'm still learning to live with the truth. I wasn't careful. I wasn't smart. I wasn't special. I was just lucky. Painfully, stupidly lucky. And luck runs out for people all the time. I never used to think twice about opening the front door. Back then, danger was just something that happened on TV, not in our neighborhood, not on our quiet little street where everyone's mailbox leaned the same way and every front yard looked like it had been copy-pasted from the same suburban template. But before I get into what happened, I should tell you a little about who I was then, because that kid, that version of me, is the heart of why this story still haunts me today. I was 12, awkward, restless, always searching for something to fill the silence. My parents were the overprotective type, the kind who text if you don't answer in 5 minutes. But that particular weekend, they finally loosened their grip. They were going to a small anniversary getaway in Vermont, just the two of them. And they left my older sister, Raya, in charge. Raya was 17, lazy in the way teenagers get when they believe the world can wait for them. She had a bad habit of disappearing whenever responsibility showed up. We lived in Shelby Heights, a quiet town just outside of Providence, Rhode Island. Most people there knew one another, at least by face. The kind of town where folks say morning, even when it's sunset. Our landlord, Mr. Whitlock, was a retired mechanic who wore the same beat-up Yankees cap every day. He'd lived 2 houses down from us since before I was born. He brought us pumpkin pies every Thanksgiving and acted like he was everyone's favorite uncle. So when 2 men showed up claiming to be landlords, yeah, I knew something was wrong before my brain even caught up. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It was a Saturday morning in late fall. Leaves all over the porch, the air smelling like cold earth and chimney smoke. Raya had actually promised, she'd stay home while Mom and Dad were away. Instead, she woke me at 9 a.m. by yelling from her bedroom, "I'm heading out. Don't burn the house down, kid." Before I could even sit up, I heard the front door slam. That was Raya for you, loud, impatient, and convinced she was invincible. I didn't snitch though. I was 12. Being alone felt like freedom. Cartoons, cereal, gaming without anyone telling me to lower the volume. By late morning, I was sprawled across the living room floor, watching reruns on Cartoon Network, munching on those cheap cinnamon bagels Mom hated buying because they taste like cardboard dipped in sugar. That's when the doorbell rang. And not just once. 3 rapid presses. Impatient, purposeful. I froze. For a second, I thought maybe Raya had come back because she forgot something. Or maybe our neighbor, Mr. Keller, the old guy who always borrowed tools from Dad. Or maybe my friend Jared from down the block. Looking back, the smart thing would have been to check the peephole. But I was 12. 12-year-olds don't follow safety protocols. 12-year-olds operate on curiosity and impulse. So I swung the door wide open and instantly wished I hadn't. 2 men stood on our porch. They didn't look like neighbors or UPS guys or salesmen or anyone who belonged on our quiet street. One of them, tall, gray-haired, wearing a wrinkled brown jacket, gave me this slow smile like he'd been expecting me. The other one was shorter, heavier, and had a scar running along his jaw. He didn't smile at all. The tall one spoke first. "Hey there, buddy. Your parents home?" His voice sounded friendly, but in a way that felt practiced, like he'd rehearsed it in the car. I shook my head before I could stop myself. No, they're not." He and the scar-jaw guy exchanged this quick look, just a flick of the eyes, a tiny shift, but I caught it, and something in my stomach tightened. The tall man cleared his throat and said, "Well, no worries. We're with the property. I'm your landlord, actually. We just need to come inside for a quick inspection. Shouldn't take more than a minute." I blinked. Landlord? Our landlord? Mr. Whitlock? The man with the Yankees cap and the laugh that sounded like an old car trying to start? This guy was definitely not him. I swallowed hard. "You're our landlord?" He nodded confidently. "Sure am." The scar-jaw guy chimed in, sounding annoyed. "We ain't got all day, kid. Just let us in so we can check the place." I didn't know much at 12, but I knew one thing. People who belong somewhere don't act like they're on a timer. My heart started thumping inside my ribs like it was trying to break free. I tried to think, fast. Okay. Yeah, but I gotta grab something first. Before they could react, I shut the door, locked the knob, slid the deadbolt. My hands were shaking so badly I almost missed the latch. I backed away from the door, expecting them to start banging on it immediately. But they didn't. The silence was worse. I ran into the kitchen and grabbed the landline phone. Yeah, we still had one back then. My hands were trembling so hard I nearly dropped it. I dialed Mom. The second she answered, I cracked. Mom. 2 guys came to the door. They said they're the landlords. They're not. The real landlord is Whitlock. They're outside. They want to come in." My voice broke into sobs. I didn't care. I was terrified. I heard Mom breathe in sharply on the other end. "Honey, listen to me. Listen carefully." Her voice was calm but tight, like she was trying not to cry. "Where is Raya?" "She left," I choked out. A pause, then a long exhale. "Okay, your dad is calling the police right now. Lock every door, lock every window. Do not go near the front door." Before she could finish, a loud knocking hit the kitchen window right next to me. I screamed. Mom heard it. "Honey, what was that?" I dropped to the floor, clutching the phone, pressing myself against the cabinet like that thin piece of wood was going to protect me. The knocking turned into tapping, gentle, almost teasing. Then I heard a voice through the glass. "Hey kid, it's all right. No need to freak out." It was the tall man. His voice was softer now, controlled. "We're not here to hurt you. Just open the door. We'll leave once we check a few things." My breath hitched. Tears blurred my vision. Mom shouted through the receiver, "Tell them the police are on their way. Say it loudly." I pressed the handset against my cheek, squeezed my eyes shut, and yelled, "My dad is calling the cops. They're almost here." Silence for a whole 6 seconds. Then I heard footsteps crunching across the leaves outside. Then nothing. Just stillness. Those 10 minutes waiting for the police felt like an hour, maybe 2. Time gets weird when you're scared. I stayed crouched on the kitchen floor, clutching the phone so hard my fingers went numb. Every tiny sound, the fridge humming, the heater clicking on, a car passing outside, made my heart leap. Mom was still on the line, voice trembling now. "We're coming home, baby. We're already on the road. Just stay on the phone with me." I kept whispering, "Mom, don't hang up, don't hang up." Then hard knocks, from the back door this time. I froze again. A different voice, Scarjaw's voice, called out, "Kid, open up, we ain't gonna do anything, just open the door." His tone was wrong, annoyed, desperate, like he was trying not to lose patience. I didn't answer. Mom whispered urgently, "Do not respond, stay hidden." The knocking got louder, then suddenly stopped. Then footsteps faded away. Another minute passed, then sirens. Glorious, beautiful sirens. Police cars, 2 of them, pulled up with lights flashing, doors slammed. Officers ran across the yard. I heard one yell, "Providence PD, step away from the house." Another shouted, "Hands where I can see them." But when they searched the area, the men were gone. They vanished like ghosts. Mom and Dad arrived minutes later. Mom burst through the door and pulled me into the tightest hug of my life. She cried. I cried harder. Dad kept saying, "You did the right thing. You did everything right." Raya showed up an hour later, thinking the flashing lights were some neighborhood drama. When she found out it was our house, let's just say Mom's yelling could have cracked concrete. The police took my statement, wrote up a report, and went door to door, asking if anyone had seen the men. Nobody had. No security camera caught them. No car was recognized. No neighbor remembered seeing anything suspicious. Almost like they knew the exact blind spots of our street. For weeks after that, I was scared to go near the windows. I slept with my bedroom light on. Sometimes I thought I saw shadows outside at night, even when nothing was there. But the worst part, the thought that still crawls under my skin even now, those men weren't burglars. They weren't missionaries. They weren't contractors. They came with purpose. They came when they knew my parents were gone. They came when they knew a kid might answer the door. And the way the tall man smiled when I first opened it, like he'd been hoping for exactly that. The police never found them. No fingerprints, no leads, no answers. Just 2 ghosts in the shape of men, disappearing into the world like they were never there. But I know they were, because sometimes, when I'm home alone, when a car slows down in front of my house, when I hear footsteps outside, I swear I still hear that soft tapping on the window, and that voice saying, "Hey kid, it's all right." I never thought my landlord would be the reason I can't sleep anymore. I grew up in a small town in northern Ohio The kind of place where people still wave from their porches and gossip is basically its own currency. After my mom passed away, I bounced around for a few years. Friends' couches, cheap rooms, too expensive rooms, a few places that should have probably been condemned, until I finally landed a decent job at a regional insurance firm. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady, reliable, something I hadn't had in a long time. That's when I started looking for a place to settle in. I wasn't hunting for a dream home, just an affordable roof, a place I could breathe in peace, maybe save some money, maybe build a life. That's when I found the duplex on Cedar Line Avenue, owned by a man named Harold Kinsey, who introduced himself as "Call Me Hal." Hal looked like every friendly Midwestern grandpa you'd see at a Home Depot on Sunday morning. Big smile, worn jacket, hair that never fully decided whether to stay or go. He had that calm, gentle voice that made you feel like nothing bad could happen around him. I needed that kind of normal. The upstairs unit was simple. 2 bedrooms, old carpets, creaky floors, a kitchen that smelled like every tenant who ever cooked there. But it was clean, private, and best of all, cheap. Too cheap, honestly. But when you're broke and praying for a break, you ignore the tiny warning bells. Rent stays the same every year, Hal had told me proudly, as if he was giving away gold. I don't believe in gouging hard-working people. He even helped me move the big items upstairs, cracking jokes the whole time. He came off like the perfect landlord, friendly, helpful, warm. The kind of guy who would shovel your sidewalk before you got out of bed. For years, everything was smooth. He'd wave whenever I was pulling out of the driveway. He'd drop off Christmas cards. Sometimes, if I got home late, I'd see his TV light glowing through the curtains downstairs, always watching some old bowling tournament reruns. It was peaceful, normal, safe. But that was before I learned what people look like when they don't have to pretend anymore. Before he started crossing lines. Before I realized the comfort he gave me wasn't kindness, it was access. When my boyfriend moved in, everything changed. 2 years ago, my boyfriend Rylan moved into the duplex with me. He and I had been dating for a while, and combining our lives made sense. He was the organized one, the kind of guy who would label the spice drawer and fold shirts like he learned it from the Marines. I was not that. We didn't fight about it. We just tried to adapt. But the moment Rylan moved in, Hal changed. He stopped waving as much. He'd stare instead, not angry, not disappointed, more calculating, like he was reassessing something or losing something. The small talk disappeared too. No more. "Morning, kiddo. Long day at work. You two staying warm up there?" It all went quiet, and that silence felt like the air before a storm. The first boundary break. One morning that winter, Hal stopped us as we were leaving for work, stepping out from behind his door so suddenly that Rylan actually jerked back. "Morning," Hal said, his voice tight. "Listen, I was up in the attic earlier." Rylan cut him off. "Up in the attic? Through our apartment?" "Uh-huh," Hal said, as if it was nothing. "The trapdoor's in your hallway, remember?" "Right," Rylan replied slowly. "But we weren't home." "Oh, well, I've always had access." Hal waved the concern away. "But hey, you guys need to clean up a little. It's getting cluttered up there." I blinked. "Cluttered?" He smiled, not in a kind way, but in a tight, judging, "I've seen some shit you didn't know, I saw kind of way." "Just tidy up," he said, like he was talking to kids. "A place should reflect the people living in it." Then he walked away. That was the first time I felt something twist uncomfortably in me. Rylan said nothing until we got to the car. Then he muttered, "Babe, he went through our apartment." I shrugged it off, mostly to calm myself. He probably needed something from the attic. "No," Rylan said firmly. "He was looking through our stuff." I didn't want to believe it, but then we bought a small, discreet security camera, and the truth hit us like a gut punch. The footage that changed everything, For the first week, nothing happened. Then one afternoon, while we were both at work, my phone buzzed. Motion detected, living room. I opened the app and froze. Hal, inside our apartment. Again. But it wasn't just him heading to the attic. It was everything else. He paused in the middle of the hallway and looked around like he was inspecting a hotel room left after checkout. He opened our bedroom door. He peered into the laundry room. He nudged a pile of folded clothes on the chair with his foot. He didn't rush. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't acting like someone who snuck in. He acted like someone who belonged there, like it was his home and we were the guests. Watching that footage, I had to remind myself to breathe. Something in his posture, the calmness, the slowness, scared me more than if he'd torn the place apart. He didn't even bother hiding it. He didn't think he had to. When Rylan got home, we watched the video together twice, silent. The third time, he whispered, "He's checking our rooms, all of them." My throat tightened. Why? What does he expect to find? Rylan shook his head. Doesn't matter. What matters is he feels entitled. That word stuck with me. Entitled. It wasn't just that he entered. It was that he believed he had the right. And that was just the beginning. The bats, the warnings, and the broken trust. 2 months later, we found a bat in the laundry room. Alive, flapping, screeching. The whole horror show. We panicked, got it out, taped up what we thought were cracks. 2 nights later, another bat, stuck in the washing machine. We started suspecting something was wrong in the attic, so we mentioned it to Hal. He said he'd call someone. We asked him politely to give us notice so we could be awake. We both worked late evenings and usually slept in. He nodded and said, "Of course, I'll text you." He didn't text us, not in time anyway. One morning, barely 9 a.m., I stumbled out of bed to pee and noticed the front door wide open, cold air pouring in. Our hallway light was on, the attic hatch open. I checked my phone, a text from Hal at 10 a.m. "Bat guy coming soon." Missed call at 10:44 a.m. Except it was 8:20 a.m. and the camera footage explained why. Hal had already come in. Not just come in, he'd moved our storage totes around, walked through every room, then put things back like he was trying to hide the evidence. I stared at the video with my heart in my throat. Rylan watched behind me, jaw tight, fists clenched. At one point in the footage, Hal stood in our bedroom doorway, not stepping in, just standing there, just watching. I felt sick. "Why does he know we're asleep?" I whispered. Rylan replied quietly, "Because he's been paying attention." That thought alone made my skin crawl. We tried to confront him once and only once. Rylan was the one who brought it up. "Hal," he said in a calm voice one afternoon while Hal was taking out his trash, "we need you to stop coming into our place without notice." Hal looked confused, genuinely confused, as if Rylan had spoken in a language he didn't understand. "I'm not coming into your place. I'm going into my attic." "But it goes through our home," I said softly. "We need notice, legally." Hal's face shifted, like a mask dropping. His smile didn't disappear, but the warmth behind it did. "Well," he said slowly, "maybe you two should focus more on keeping it presentable. I wouldn't need to check on anything if I wasn't worried about what's going on up there." My chest tightened. "We're not dirty." He shrugged. "We'll agree to disagree." Then he walked away, just like that, like the conversation hadn't happened. That's when Rylan whispered the words that kept me awake for nights. He won't stop. He doesn't think he's wrong. Living in quiet terror, since then, every sound in the hallway felt like a threat. Every creak of the floorboards made me freeze. Every morning I woke up wondering if Hal had walked through while we slept, because now I knew he wasn't afraid of being caught. He was afraid of losing control, and that made him unpredictable. We considered moving, but the rent was too cheap and we were saving aggressively for a house next year. The idea of starting over financially felt like falling down a well, but staying meant living like hostages. We put more cameras up. We locked the bedroom door at night. We kept the front door dead bolted at all times. But no lock stopped the fear, because the attic hatch had no lock. And that was Hal's entrance, his doorway into our life. Whenever he wanted, the night everything finally snapped. Last week, late, maybe 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of something shifting in the hallway. A soft thump, then another. Rylan was breathing deeply beside me, asleep. I held my breath and listened. Another creak. Not from outside, not from downstairs, from inside our apartment. I slowly slid out of bed and put my ear to the door. A faint click, a scrape, a footstep. A very slow, deliberate footstep. My skin went cold. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. The hallway camera flickered, and then I saw him. Hal, standing at the top of the attic stairs, in the dark, in our hallway. At 2 a.m., he wasn't holding tools. He wasn't heading toward the attic. He was facing our bedroom door, just standing there, like he was listening, like he was deciding something. My heart pounded so hard, I could hear it. I grabbed Rylan's arm and whispered sharply, "Wake up now." He jolted awake, looked at me confused, then saw the terror in my face. "What?" I turned the phone toward him. He saw it, and he froze. We didn't move. We didn't speak. We didn't breathe. A few seconds later, Hal turned, slowly, and walked back toward the attic ladder. He climbed up, one creaking step at a time. Then the hatch shut. Click. Silence. Rylan whispered, "Call the cops." But I couldn't move. All I could think was, he was standing outside our bedroom while we slept. He was watching our door. He's been doing this for God knows how long. We're leaving, but not fast enough. We're packing now, quietly, cautiously, trying not to trigger him. The problem? He knows our schedule. He knows when we sleep. He knows when we're gone. He knows the sound of our footsteps. He knows everything. Every box we move to the car feels like we're making an escape from someone who might not let us go easily. We don't talk to him. We stay polite. Short answers only. Fake smiles. He watches us from his window. He always watches. The police said unless we can prove intent, there's nothing they can do. Landlord access laws are tricky, but I don't need a law to tell me what my gut already knows. Sometimes evil doesn't break in through windows. Sometimes it lives downstairs. Sometimes it gives you Christmas cards and helps you hang curtains. Sometimes it smiles and calls you kiddo. Sometimes it waits until you're asleep. Sometimes it stands outside your door, listening, breathing, waiting. We're leaving in 3 days. And until then, I'm terrified to close my eyes, because every creak, every shift of the house, every breath of wind feels like him. Coming upstairs, opening the hatch, checking our rooms, standing outside our door, watching, and thinking we'll never know. But we do now. And that's the thing about monsters. Once you finally see them, you can never unsee them again. I never planned on moving to Willow Creek. Honestly, the town wasn't even on my radar until everything back home started falling apart. My previous landlord kept raising rent for no reason. The neighbors partied like it was a year-round frat reunion. And my job, well, let's just say that working 12-hour shifts at a crappy warehouse with no AC wasn't doing my sanity any favors. By the time summer rolled around, I felt like I was drowning in my own life. So when my cousin sent me a link to a room for rent listing just outside Willow Creek, I clicked it out of desperation more than hope. The listing was simple. 1-bedroom unit in a duplex, quiet area, utilities included, Long-term lease preferred. Contact Rowan Fitch. The pictures weren't fancy. The place looked old but clean. Rent was insanely cheap, almost suspiciously cheap. But when you're broke and burnt out, cheap hits different. I emailed Rowan that same night. He replied within minutes, polite but brief, telling me I could stop by for a walkthrough anytime that weekend. That Saturday, I drove 2 hours to Willow Creek, expecting some rundown, falling apart shack. Instead, I found a modest 2-story house painted pale gray, with a small porch and a big oak tree shading half the yard. It looked normal, almost cozy. Rowan opened the door before I even knocked. He was in his early 50s, tall, soft-spoken, wearing an old Ranger's hoodie and jeans. Something about him was comforting, like the kind of guy who'd shovel your driveway without you asking. "Hey there," he said, smiling gently. "You must be Jaden." "Yeah," I said. "Nice to meet you." He nodded. "Come on in. I'll show you around." The downstairs unit looked surprisingly well kept. There were old hardwood floors, a brick fireplace that probably hadn't been used in a decade, and windows that let in a ton of daylight. The kitchen was small but tidy. The hallway smelled faintly like pine cleaner, like he'd scrubbed the place out of courtesy. Rowan told me he lived upstairs. "Just me up there," he said as we walked. "I'm a quiet guy. Not a lot of noise from me, I promise." I believed him. Everything felt straightforward until we reached a door near the end of the hallway. "This one stays closed," Rowan said quickly. I paused. "What's in there?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Maintenance room, old wiring, old pipes, all that junk. Nothing exciting. You don't need to worry about it." "Ah, got it." "Seriously," he added, tone shifting. "Don't go in there. If something's wrong with anything in the unit, just call me and I'll handle it." "All right," I said, "no problem." I didn't think anything of it at the time. Lots of old houses have weird doors, but something in the way he said it, it stuck with me. Still, the rent was perfect. The place was quiet. And honestly, I needed a fresh start so bad that I ignored every tiny red flag waving in front of my face. I signed the lease that same day. The first week felt normal, almost boring in a peaceful way. I worked at a local hardware store in town, taking the evening shift since the pay was $1 higher. I'd come home, heat up leftovers, throw on some show I wasn't even paying attention to, and pass out early. Rowan kept to himself. I'd hear him walking upstairs sometimes, slow steps, steady stride, but not much else. He wasn't intrusive, didn't hover, didn't check up on me. If anything, he acted like I barely existed, but I started noticing things, little things, like how he seemed to walk at weird hours, sometimes after midnight, sometimes at 4 a.m., heavy footsteps, purposeful, not like someone getting a drink or walking half asleep. And sometimes I'd swear I heard something else, like faint tapping, or a low thud, or a muffled something. I brushed it off. Old houses make noises, people move around. It's whatever. But then one night everything changed. It was around 1:57 a.m. I remember because I was scrolling through my phone, half awake, debating whether to make a late snack. Then clear as day, I heard a scream, short, sharp, full of pure panic. It cut through the house like someone had let loose a burst of terror and then swallowed it right back down. I sat up instantly. My heart punched the inside of my chest. The scream came from inside the house. I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't a TV. It wasn't a neighbor. It came from somewhere near the hallway. I slid out of bed, grabbed the small flashlight from my drawer, and crept toward my door. My hands were shaking so badly that I could hear the flashlight rattling. I cracked the door open. Silence. The kind of silence that hurts your ears. "Hello?" I called out, voice cracking. "Rowan, you good, man?" Nothing. "Rowan?" Still nothing. I stood there for a full minute, listening so hard my ears felt hot. But the house went back to being perfectly still, like that scream had never existed. The next morning, Rowan was sweeping the porch when I left for work. He looked completely normal. "Hey, morning," he said casually. I forced a smile. "Morning. Hey, did you hear anything weird last night?" He paused, leaning on the broom. "Weird how? Like a scream?" He raised an eyebrow, but his face didn't show confusion, only mild irritation. "No," he said flatly. "Probably the TV or someone outside." "Didn't sound like it was outside," I muttered. "Well," he said with a shrug, "it wasn't me. I was asleep." He went back to sweeping like I hadn't said anything, and that's when something in my brain clicked. I didn't believe him, not even a little. I ordered a small motion-activated camera online. Nothing fancy, just something that could send clips straight to my phone. When it arrived, I set it up on a shelf facing the maintenance door. I told myself it was stupid, that I was being paranoid, that the scream was probably a dream. But every morning, I checked the footage anyway. And for the first few days, it recorded nothing unusual. Just me coming home, the lights flicking on, Rowan passing through occasionally. I almost stopped checking. Until Thursday night, when I woke up and saw a motion alert time-stamped 1:06 a.m. My blood went cold. I opened it while sitting at my kitchen table, coffee untouched. The hallway was empty at first. Then Rowan stepped into frame. He wasn't wearing his usual comfy hoodie this time. He was dressed in dark clothes, black pants, black shirt. His posture was tense. Behind him was a woman. Her hands were tied behind her back. Her head was lowered, hair covering her face. She didn't make a sound, didn't resist, didn't even hesitate. Rowan unlocked the maintenance door and guided her inside. Then the door shut. Rowan left the frame. The clip ended. I watched it twice, 3 times, 4, each time hoping, somehow, that it was a prank, a misunderstanding, a nightmare. But it wasn't. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped my phone. I dialed 911. 20 minutes later, 2 police cars rolled up quietly, like they already sensed something was seriously wrong. I met them on the porch and showed them the video. One of the officers, a woman named Officer Brooks, looked at me and said, "Is anyone else inside right now?" "Rowan," I said. "He lives upstairs, but I haven't seen him this morning." They went inside, knocked once, no answer. Then they broke his door open. From outside, I heard heavy footsteps, hurried voices, radios crackling. Then more cops arrived, detectives, crime techs. They entered the maintenance room. They went into the basement. 40 minutes later, they found the hidden room. The room was behind a false wall, soundproofed, no windows, chains bolted into the concrete, a thin mattress, empty water bottles, a single bucket, and the woman from the video. She was alive, but barely responsive. When paramedics carried her out, she didn't look at me, didn't speak, just stared straight ahead, like her mind wasn't in her body anymore. The police found Rowan 2 hours later in a wooded area a few blocks away. He surrendered without a word. They took him away in cuffs. He didn't look up once. That night, a detective named Harlow asked me everything. When I moved in, what I heard, what I saw, why I set up the camera. I answered every question honestly. I didn't leave anything out. He gave me a tired look and said, "You probably saved her life." But something in the way he said "her" made me nauseous, like she wasn't the only one they were worried about. Over the next week, I stayed in a temporary apartment paid for by the department. They told me not to go back to the house, not to speak publicly, not to answer reporters. Every day, I was called in again. Detectives wanted details, timelines, clarifications. They wanted to know why Rowan picked me as a tenant. They wanted to know how long I thought he'd been doing this, because as they explained, Rowan had owned that house for 22 years, and over those 22 years, multiple tenants had left without notice. Some were reported missing. Others were assumed to have moved away. No one had connected the dots until now. The basement had more than one soundproofed panel. They were still opening the others. Every time I asked how many rooms they found, the detective said, "We can't discuss that." But their faces said everything. After the second week, they returned most of my belongings. Some items, clothes, books, small electronics, were kept as evidence. I didn't argue. I quit my job. I didn't say goodbye to anyone there. I didn't want to stay long enough for someone to recognize me from the news. I moved 2 towns over into a small apartment above a bakery. Older lady landlord, no basement, no weird doors. But even now, sometimes I wake up at night convinced I heard something. A footstep, a thud, a tiny distant scream. Every time I hear it, my heart drops, and I lie there in the dark until I convince myself it's nothing. But I know what I heard in that house, and I know Rowan wasn't the kind of monster you can spot from a mile away. He was normal, too normal, and that's the scariest part. Even now, I can still picture him sweeping the porch that morning, acting like he'd heard nothing, acting like everything was fine. But I know now. Some people practice normal like it's an art form, and monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes, they rent the floor above you. I didn't move to Redmond Heights because I loved the neighborhood. I moved there because it was the only place I could afford on short notice. After my previous place got sold out from under me, I had about 3 weeks to find something, anything, within commuting distance of my new job. I was working at a logistics company on the edge of town, 45 minutes outside Seattle, and I didn't have a car yet. I was Ubering to work every day, and that alone was eating half my paycheck. My mom kept saying, "Just come stay with us for a little while." But that meant moving 3 states away, and I wasn't starting over again. Not that soon. So when I saw the listing for a main level 1-bedroom in a historic triplex, utilities included, no pets, I jumped on it. The photos looked okay, nothing special. The floors were old, the walls looked yellowish in the pictures, and the kitchen cabinets seemed like they'd witnessed at least 5 generations of tenants. But the rent was $920, including everything. For the area, that was practically charity. The landlord's name was Reeves Tarrant. I remember thinking the name sounded like he was from some old money East Coast family, but when I met him, that expectation disappeared in about 2 seconds. Reeves was in his early 60s, I guessed. Tall but slouched, pale, papery skin, a salt and pepper beard that looked like he shaved it every few days but gave up halfway through. He spoke in a thin voice, like someone who'd spent years whispering and forgot how to talk normally. When he shook my hand, his fingers were colder than they should have been. "Good timing," he said softly as I approached the porch. "You're earlier than most people." "Traffic was light," I replied. He blinked slowly. "You can follow me." He didn't make small talk. No welcome or good to meet you or do you have any questions? Just walked ahead, keys jingling in one hand, like he'd rather be anywhere else. The main level was clean enough. Small, not terrible. I told him I'd take it. He nodded once, like he already knew. "No need for a long lease," he said. "Month to month is fine. I don't like contracts. Too much paperwork. Too many people who don't know what they're signing." The way he said it, like a tired complaint, made me pause. But desperate people make compromised choices. "I'm okay with month to month," I said. He murmured again. "Cash on the first. I don't do checks, or apps, or cards." That was my first warning sign, but I ignored it. I shouldn't have. The day I moved in, he met me in the shared hallway. He pointed to a gray metal door at the far end. "That's the maintenance room. You don't need to go in there. Nothing in there is for tenants." "Okay," I said. "If something breaks, text me. Don't go in there. okay? His voice cracked a little on the last word, like he was forcing it. Sure, I said again. He nodded, satisfied, and backed away like the conversation was over. The place was older than I expected. The floors sagged a bit. The bathroom tiles were cracked. The radiator would cough and clank at night like someone tapping metal pipes with a spoon. But overall, it was livable. Reeves lived in the top unit. The bottom one was, according to him, empty. For storage, he'd said. But I never saw him go in there. Never heard anything from that floor either. Not a peep. Every now and then, I'd hear Reeves pacing above me. His walk was weird, slow, sliding steps, like he was dragging his feet. Sometimes he paced for hours in the middle of the night. I started keeping earbuds next to my bed. My job wasn't glamorous, warehouse scheduling, but it was steady. I worked 8 to 4:30, walked home, made dinner, watched something on Hulu, slept early. Life was simple, quiet. Then, a month after moving in, it started. I was coming home from work when Reeves knocked. More like tapped. 3 light taps, barely audible. I opened the door. He stood there holding a folded scrap of paper. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept. "You shorted me," he said quietly. "What?" I asked. He held up the paper. "Your rent. You gave me $700, not $920. I blinked at him. "No, I put the full amount in. I counted it twice." He didn't blink back. "You didn't," he said, matter of fact. "I counted it. Twice." This was my first time dealing with this, so I didn't react badly. I just frowned. "I'm sure I put the right amount," I said. "Do you still have the envelope?" I threw it out. His voice was flat, but the cash was short. Silence stretched between us. "I need the difference," he said. "Tonight." I hesitated. I didn't want trouble. I also had no proof. "Okay," I finally said. "I'll get it to you." He nodded once and walked away without another word. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head a dozen times. Something felt wrong, like he'd practiced the script, like he'd done it before. So I made a new rule. Anytime I dropped off rent, I counted it out loud on my phone's voice recorder first, just in case. 2 weeks later, 9:45 p.m., a knock at my door. The same soft taps. I opened it. Reeves was standing in the dark hallway. He didn't turn the overhead light on. He just stared at me, watery eyes gleaming in the dim glow of my apartment. "You're short again," he whispered. My stomach dropped. "No," I said. I recorded myself counting it. It was 9:20. He blinked slowly. "You gave me 600, he said. "That's not 920. Reeves, that's impossible. Are you calling me a liar?" His voice didn't raise, but something in it changed, tightened, turned brittle. "No," I said carefully, "but I'm telling you I counted it twice, and I have proof." He tilted his head. "Proof?" he repeated softly. "What kind of proof?" His tone chilled me. I suddenly realized something. Reeves hated pushback, even mild pushback. It was like he wasn't used to being questioned. "I recorded myself counting," I said cautiously. Silence. Finally he whispered, "That doesn't prove what you handed me." I didn't answer. He leaned in slightly. "If you don't pay the rest, I'll have to ask you to leave." I felt my pulse in my throat. "I'll pay it tomorrow," I said quietly. He nodded once and drifted away like a ghost. I didn't sleep that night. The third time it happened, something in me snapped. He knocked again. Same soft taps. "You shorted me again," he said. 300. I inhaled slowly. "Reeves," I said, "I know I didn't. And I'm not paying more without seeing what you counted." His jaw twitched. "You don't get to demand anything," he said. "This is my house, my property, my rules." "Then show me the envelope," I said. He didn't answer. "Show me what I supposedly gave you." His breathing changed, became shallow. "You're not in a position to argue," he whispered. "I'm not giving you anything until you show proof." His smile stretched, thin and unsettling. "You're making a mistake," Then he leaned closer. You have no idea how many people made that same mistake. He walked away before I could ask what he meant. And the moment he did, I grabbed my phone and called a tenant legal assistance clinic I'd found online months earlier, but hoped I'd never need. They told me to record everything, write everything down, and stop giving him cash. They also said something else that froze me. Reeves has had multiple complaints filed, the woman on the phone said. He's been running illegal rentals for years. Nothing is registered. My chest tightened. And, she added, you're not the first to report short payments. Not by a long shot. 3 days later, a city inspector came while Reeves was out. He walked through the unit, took pictures, and shook his head. This place isn't zoned for occupancy, he said. Half of what he's done here violates code. He issued a notice on the spot. I could stay temporarily until they figured things out, but Reeves couldn't collect another dime from me legally. That night, I heard him pacing above me, faster, heavier, not the slow shuffling anymore. This was agitation. I locked my door. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard something new. The doorknob rattling, softly, gently, testing. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. It stopped after maybe 10 seconds, but I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, Reeves knocked, tap, tap, tap. I opened the door only a crack. He stared at me, breathing unevenly. What did you do? He whispered. I don't know what you mean. He swallowed hard. The city was here. Yes, you told them something. They came because of complaints. From who? His voice cracked sharply. I didn't answer. He leaned forward, eyes dull and furious. You think they can stop me? He whispered. Do you think you're the first? He swallowed again. They come, they complain, they leave. They always leave. His eyes shifted past me into my apartment. This isn't your home, he said. You don't belong here. Reeves, I'm not discussing this with you. Then get out, he hissed. I'm allowed to stay until the city's process is finished. He shook visibly. His hands trembled. You think they can tell me what to do in my house? I closed the door slowly. He didn't stop me, but he stayed in the hallway for over a minute, breathing. I could hear it through the wood. 2 nights later, it escalated. I had installed a cheap door wedge and a stick in the sliding window track just in case. Around 2:40 a.m., I heard noises outside my window. Not scratching, breathing, a slow exhale, then a whisper. Open up, I froze. Another whisper, slightly louder. Let me in. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911 silently, and kept the screen near my chest. The handle of the window clicked. The stick held. I whispered, hello? I need police. Someone's trying to get into my apartment. Before I finished, something slammed against the window frame. Not violently, more like a frustrated thud. Then footsteps. Faint. Retreating. When officers arrived, Reeves was in his unit upstairs, acting confused and half asleep. I didn't hear anything, he said. Maybe it was an animal. Raccoons get bold this time of year. But the officers noticed the fresh scrapes on my window frame. They documented everything. After they left, I heard him pacing again. All night. Fast. Erratic. The following morning, I woke to a faint banging coming from the bottom floor, the storage unit level that was supposedly empty. I hadn't heard anything from there in weeks. Curious, terrified, and tired of being scared, I went into the shared hallway. The noise stopped. I walked down the steps. Each one creaked. At the bottom, I saw the same gray metal door Reeves had once pointed to upstairs. But here, there was another gray door. Same style, same lock. And I heard it, breathing. Not mine, not Reeves. Slow, wet, human. I stepped back instinctively. The breathing stopped. The doorknob jiggled, once, twice. Then a voice, faint, hoarse. Is somebody there? Please, help. My blood iced. I stumbled backward, raced upstairs, grabbed my phone, and called the legal clinic first, then the non-emergency police line. They told me not to confront Reeves and not to open anything. An inspector arrived the next day with police. They forced the bottom unit door open. Inside was a room stacked floor to ceiling with storage boxes, and behind them, a small mattress, blankets, and personal items belonging to someone who wasn't Reeves and definitely didn't live legally in that house. Someone who had been there recently. Someone who had been locked in. The person who'd whispered was gone. Reeves denied knowing anything, but the city didn't buy it. Neither did the police. They opened the other gray door too. The one upstairs he'd forbidden me from entering. Inside were piles of old envelopes, rent envelopes, dozens, maybe hundreds, not just mine, other tenants, other handwriting, other dates going back, years. Some were slit open with precision, some still had cash inside, some were marked with red pen, short, missing, liar, evicted. 6 other ex-tenants came forward within days. Reeves had run the exact same scheme on every single one of them. The city issued a shutdown order for the entire house. Reeves was temporarily detained for questioning, then formally charged when further evidence surfaced. He'd kept illegal tenants, lied about records, stolen thousands, and harassed people into leaving so he could repeat the cycle. I had to move out. The house was condemned until further notice, but the city gave me time. The legal clinic helped me find a temporary place, and later, a permanent one. Reeves never spoke to me again. I saw him once in the courthouse hallway. He looked smaller, darker, like something had hollowed him out. He didn't look at me, or maybe he refused to. The judge ordered him to pay restitution, fines, and complete a mandatory evaluation. He lost the house in the process. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the breathing behind that basement door, about the whisper asking for help, about the fact that whoever that was never found. I try not to think about what the inspectors didn't find, or didn't look for. I've lived in 4 different places since then, all legal, all boring, all safe. But every time I hear soft tapping on a door, every time I hear pacing above me, every time a landlord speaks too quietly, a part of me goes right back to that window, that whisper, that house where people vanished in paperwork and shadows. I still check my locks twice every night, sometimes 3, just in case.